There are new signs today that federal ICE agents are laying the groundwork for a new round of tactical raids and detentions in Chicago, possibly by the end of this week. WBBM political editor Craig Dellamore has our top story from City Hall.
Christina Passioni-Zayas, the mayor's chief of staff, says city officials have gotten word that immigration and customs enforcement agents have been told to resume immigration raids here and elsewhere.
The notice was given to agents that they have 48 hours to deploy. That there will be 5 cities that are targeted, Democrat-led cities, Chicago being one of them for sure, and that they were going to be targeting, workplaces in terms of the raids. Mayor
Johnson says people are once again afraid to leave their homes and families fear being torn apart.
You got to be really sick and demented to do this to people.
He says the president's goal is chaos. Chicago police will try to bring calm to the situation. At City Hall, Craig Dellamore, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
Our top local story on WBBM. Governor Pritzker says he is not going to get on the phone with President Trump as a major ICE operation appears to be brewing in Chicago. The latest details from WBBM's Terry Keshner.
The president is begging me to call him to ask him to do something that we don't want.
Governor Pritzker says it's becoming a familiar back and forth regarding President Trump.
He wants me to call him and ask him to call in National Guard to the city of Chicago. We don't want it. So that's why I'm not calling the president.
The governor says President Trump wants him to ask for troops because this will end up in court and the president could use the governor's request against him.
What we do want is civilian law enforcement assistance. We want to make sure that we have enough FBI, ATF, DEA on the ground. We have some already, as you know. They do really good work, working in tandem with state police, working in tandem with Chicago Police Department.
The governor also said ICE agents could be in action in Chicago on Saturday. Terry Keshner, 105.9 WBBM.
A Chicago alderperson was handcuffed by ICE agents, threatened with arrest earlier today. Around the same time, tear gas was unleashed on a busy street nearby.
Do you have a sign?
No, you need to leave.
This is audio from video posted on the Facebook account of 26th Ward alderperson Jesse Fuentes. In the video, Fuentes confronts ICE agents attempting to detain a resident inside the Humboldt Park Health Emergency Room, asking if they have a judicial warrant, and told to leave. Fuentes is seen handcuffed and removed from the hospital, but was released afterward. Nearby on Armitage and Central Park just moments earlier, chaos broke out when, according to a small business owner we spoke to, ICE agents dropped about a half dozen tear gas canisters from a vehicle. Leading up to this, he says people in the neighborhood had been riding alongside an ICE vehicle convoy on bikes, trying to slow traffic as much as they could and loudly alerting the community of ICE's presence. He says without provocation, the canisters of gas were deployed near busy neighborhood sidewalks, outside a grocery store and elementary school. Brandon Eisen, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
Dozens of demonstrators are back in Broadview this morning protesting the West Suburban ICE Detention Center. The details from WBBM's Nancy Hardy.
Wearing a crown of barbed wire and holding a sign that says, "Who would Jesus deport?" Josh is standing here along busy 25th Street. He tells us he hopes to act as a mirror for fellow Christians who support the immigration raids, noting it took him longer than he would like to come around on the issue.
Saying well, they broke the law, or and so they get what's coming to them. That's not what Jesus Christ preached at all. And it took me many years of self-reflection and understanding of Scripture.
Many of the protesters out here are wearing protective eyewear and have masks or respirators after last Friday's protest saw agents use tear gas to disperse people blocking vehicles leaving the ICE detention center. In Broadview, Nancy Hardy, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
Our top local story on News Radio WBBM. There are new questions about Chicago police response to the Trump administration's stepped-up immigration enforcement after a Northside homeowner says ICE agents illegally invaded his property. The story from WBBM political editor Jeff Buckles.
This was a violent raid.
Leo Feller says agents last Friday sped the wrong way down a one-way street, climbed his locked fence gate, and chased down workers who had been hired to install windows at his 3-flat on the Southport corridor.
One worker was ultimately detained. That detention happened inside my garage, which means it happened on my private property at my home without a warrant.
But Feller says Chicago police at the 19th District refused to take a report. And while he eventually did file a report with detectives, he says he was told it would not be pursued.
Who do we turn to protect us from violations of the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution?
Feller told his story during an event with his congressman, Mike Quigley.
A crime is a crime, no matter who commits the crime.
He's calling on Chicago police to take reports from people accusing ICE agents of crime. In the meantime, Feller says he's still cleaning up blood around his home. We're in the Loop. Jeff Buckles, News Radio 105.9, WBBM.
And we've reached out to Chicago police for a response. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem held a news conference at the airport in Gary today detailing what's being called Operation Midway Blitz, the immigration enforcement actions in the Chicago area.
The secretary said among the thousands of undocumented people who have been arrested in the past 6 weeks, truck drivers, who she says were given commercial driver's licenses by sanctuary states like Illinois.
Since the beginning of Midway Blitz, ICE and CBP and our state partners have arrested more than 3,000 illegal aliens, including rapists, murderers, and gang members that have been brought to justice. And listen, we don't want any of these individuals out on our roads, and we don't want them in our communities, and we especially don't want them behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler when they can't speak our language, they don't understand our laws, they can't follow our roadway signs, and they can't interact with law enforcement or our citizens.
Noem said since President Trump took office, more than 2 million people have been deported, some arrested, some who left voluntarily. Mike Krauser, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
A woman from Evanston is helping hundreds of refugees weekly with a free store on the north side.
Amid reports of mass deportation starting in Chicago, Deborah Michaud says her work is more important than ever.
A lot of these families that I know are terrified. They're afraid to leave the house. They're afraid to go get food.
Michaud is the founder of Refugee Support Chicago, a Facebook group with more than 2,000 members that collects donations and recruits volunteers to help refugees, immigrants, and unhoused individuals in Chicago. Last year, the group opened a free store in Uptown where people can shop for basic needs.
We give them coats, we have vitamins, diapers, clothing.
Michaud operates the store with the help of volunteers, many of them immigrants who used the store when they first arrived in Chicago.
La ayuda que ofrecen, sobre todo aprender el inglés.
This volunteer came to Chicago from Venezuela about a year ago and says the store motivated her to learn English. Now she's giving back to others who were in the same position she was.
Siempre recíproco. Todo lo que nos dan, devolverlo.
Carolina Garibay, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
Well, Southside residents at a food distribution event this afternoon sharing thoughts on a scarcity of resources in the city and how that ties into ramped up immigration enforcement.
People lined up outside St. Sabina Church in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood where boxes of frozen food and fresh produce were being provided. We asked these community members in need if they take issue with resources going to address an influx of migrants over the past few years.
No, I mean, if you need it, you need it. I mean, if you got it, then, you know.
The views varied, some taking an everyone is welcome approach, while others were more concerned with ongoing disparities in the city.
Yeah, because the people in our neighborhoods that really need it, not getting it, they're giving it to everybody else first. So the people that's in our neighborhoods that actually need it, like all these homeless people that's sleeping under the viaducts and stuff, they getting the resources that our people should be getting. I just feel like that. I'm sorry.
Everyone in this line we spoke with expressed approval for immigration efforts, but they are concerned about the use of force involved, along with the federal presence setting a precedent they fear could soon be turned on the local black community. On the south side, Brandon Eisen, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
Newly obtained 911 recordings from West Suburban Broadview are providing more insight into the day that the ICE Processing Center there first became the focus of weeks of immigration enforcement and protests. WBBM political editor Jeff Buckholtz has been working this story for weeks and is here at the anchor desk with exclusive details. Jeff.
Hi, Lisa. Broadview's a community of 8,000 people inside an area that's a little bigger than 2 square miles. Operation Midway Blitz turned it into a place that's become known around the world.
911, where's the emergency?
Ma'am, we were just shot at by ICE agents at 1930 Broadview, and they got a handicapped woman.
That's part of just one of the calls that came into Broadview's dispatch center on September 12th. Before that day was over, operators would be flooded with calls from people demonstrating and getting pepper sprayed outside the ICE processing facility.
How many people?
Are you okay?
Broadview Police Chief Thomas Mills was in the middle of everything. He was trying to protect everyone out there, and in the middle of all of it, he was confronted by a masked ICE agent.
He screamed some vulgarities at me,
basically stating that I needed to do my job and I'm a piece of, and not a good word.
It's the word you think it is. In an extensive interview at Village Hall, the chief told me that's when he realized his officers were going to need more help.
We actually created a new plan, seeing what we went through on September 12th.
He says his department, which is budgeted for 31 sworn officers and 2 civilians, has done what he calls a phenomenal job under difficult circumstances.
Jeff, so the village, did they have any advance warning that this enforcement surge was coming?
We asked about that. The chief told me he heard from some people at the ICE facility around Labor Day that they would be processing detainees 7 days a week. Usually that facility would run 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, but they had very little other information about what they'd be doing.
So talk about the process to get this story.
We filed a public records request nearly 2 months ago for materials related to Broadview's response to demonstrations at the ICE facility. After reviewing those recordings that you just heard and a bunch of others, we sat down with Chief Mills to find out more about his department's actions. There's more to come over the next couple of days, including how he feels about how his community has become a backdrop for political protests and what we learned about his current employment status with the village.
All right, we'll look forward to that. Good job. Thank you, political editor Jeff Buchholz. Thanks.
Videos released by the Chicago Police Department confirm what we've previously heard in dispatch recordings, that officers were told not to respond to an October incident in the Brighton Park neighborhood after a woman was shot by a federal agent. But as we hear from WBBM's Mike Krauser, there's more to the story.
The CPD had been criticized by Homeland Security, which claimed officers refused to assist agents who were surrounded by protesters, and there was criticism from protesters who accused police officers of assisting federal agents. The superintendent, Larry Snelling, from an October press conference.
One thing about law enforcement, I'll tell you this right now, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But we accept that.
Here's some of the dispatch audio from that day.
The chief of patrol, clear everybody up. We're not responding over there.
Snelling defended the chief of patrol, John Hine, after the incident.
The chief of patrol would never tell someone to stand down when any fellow law enforcement agent is in trouble.
Ultimately, CPD officers provided crowd control at the scene, and Snelling noted 27 of them were affected by chemical agents deployed by the federal agents. He conceded there may have been some miscommunication. Mike Krauser, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
A federal judge in Chicago issues an order that limits the use of force by federal immigration agents during the ICE effort, Operation Midway Blitz. U.S. District Judge Sarah Ellis says Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino lied repeatedly in deposition testimony about the amount of force that he and his agents have been using. Attorneys and advocates call Judge Ellis's ruling a major victory for democracy, but acknowledge there is still plenty of work to do. Our latest from WBBM's Andy Dane.
The court's ruling makes it clear our voices matter.
Autumn Reedy Hamer was one of several Chicagoans to testify in court about her experience outside of the ICE facility in Broadview.
I joined a peaceful protest and I was met with violence. Tear gas, rubber bullets, pepper balls, and flashbangs. I watched friends, teachers, journalists, and people of faith cruelly targeted by federal agents.
Speaking outside the courtroom, attorneys like Teresa Kleinhaus gave credit to those demonstrators in helping to make Judge Sarah Ellis's ruling a reality.
All of the people here stand up for each other, they stand up for their communities, and they're not doing it as professionals. They're building a movement for peace and justice based on their principles and their conscience.
While some expressed concerns immigration agents will comply with the new injunction and its rules, everyone agreed they will not stop demonstrating wherever it's necessary.
Chicago doesn't belong to the feds.
Andy Dane, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
Breaking news from News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
And we've got breaking news from The Loop, where there's been a development in this evening's anti-ICE protest and march, where we find WBBM's Terry Keshner. He's live with an update. Terry, what's been going on since we talked to you last?
Lisa, this is what happened just a short time ago as demonstrators were marching on Murrow near the Palmer House near Wabash. A car did plow into the crowd. Police were trying to stop this vehicle. We saw one person go down. People began scattering out of the way of the vehicle. A very, very frightening situation. We did see at least one person who appeared to have been knocked down by the car, but then just like that, it was over. Police did get the car pulled over. It looked like it was going to be horrible. It looks like no one was seriously hurt. Can't say that for sure. We don't see anyone down right now. Now this demonstration, this large demonstration, seemed to have been a little bit re-energized by that, and it is moving south again on Wabash under the L tracks. You can hear it. Thousands of people continuing to march here, denouncing ICE, denouncing the White House, saying immigrants have rights. They are being loud, and this is still going on. Reporting live from under the L tracks on Wabash near Monroe, Terry Keshner, 105.9 WBBM.
There was new outrage today about the Trump administration's ICE enforcement activity in Chicago after masked and armed agents pulled a teacher out of a North Side daycare. WBBM political editor Jeff Buckles reports elected leaders are disputing the Fed's versions of events.
We are not okay.
Parents, religious, and community leaders looked on as members of Congress and others denounced the decision to detain a teacher inside the Raita de Sol facility at Addison and Rockwell near Lane Tech High School.
They went into multiple rooms asking and looking for teachers, while children were present.
Democratic Congresswoman Delia Ramirez says the teacher taken into custody is authorized to work in the U.S. A statement from DHS claims in part agents did not target the daycare, but say the woman barricaded herself inside the facility after speeding away from what the agency called a targeted traffic stop. Congressman Mike Quigley says he doesn't believe anything coming out of the administration.
This is a president, when he gets in the room with the truth, a fight breaks out.
The teacher was reportedly taken to the ICE facility in Broadview. We're on the North Side. Jeff Buckles, News Radio 105.9. WBBM.
The Illinois Secretary of State is warning ICE and Border Patrol agents that it's illegal to swap or alter license plates, and penalties include fines and possible jail time.
Secretary of State Alexi Janulius' office says it's received reports of federal agents flipping and modifying state-issued license plates on their vehicles. There's a video shot in Round Lake Beach in which a federal agent admits to switching plates every day.
You can record all you want. I am. These plates out every day.
There are other examples of plates not matching vehicles or being obscured.
They have current registration stickers on them, but they're not attached to a car. Where are they getting the plates?
So check this out. This is a ICE vehicle where they got the license plate taped off.
Janulius said in a statement, swapping out license plates or tampering with them to avoid or conceal detection is illegal, unsafe, and will not be tolerated. His office has established what it calls a plate watch hotline, asking people to report what they see. Mike Krauser, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
Mayor Johnson says federal agents posing for a photo op in front of the Bean in Millennium Park today is just the latest provocation against the city by the Trump administration.
People passing by Millennium Park saw Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino and armed, uniformed, and masked officers posing in front of the Cloud Gate sculpture in the early morning sunlight, saying "Little Village" instead of cheese.
This is ugly behavior.
Mayor Johnson says the apparent photo op is the latest attempt to provoke people in the city following a weekend that included reports that an agent fired pepper spray in a car carrying a 1-year-old child.
We will not be lectured about public safety when you have individuals who are masked and who are pepper spraying children, tear gassing our police officers.
He also blamed the ICE activity on a 21% drop in 911 calls from Little Village since the start of Operation Midway Blitz. We're with the mayor at City Hall, Jeff Buckles, News Radio 105.9. WBBM.
Faith leaders in Chicago are demanding that detainees inside the Broadview ICE facility be given access to their religious rights.
A group of clergy and religious members gathered outside of the ICE field office downtown in the cold to hand deliver a letter demanding DHS and ICE officials grant them access to the Broadview ICE facility so that priests may provide Holy Communion to detained immigrants on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Father Dan Hartnett with the Coalition for Spiritual and Public Leadership says the group has made repeated requests to enter the facility and have yet to receive a response.
They will not have access to the body of Christ in the Eucharist on Christmas. They are denied pastoral care, which is their right by law. We cannot be silent when this most basic religious freedom is denied.
Meeting the group outside in the cold, ICE officials did accept the letter. Mallory Vorbroker, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
West Suburban Congressman Lauren Underwood is sharing details from her tour today of the ICE processing facility in West Suburban Broadview that's become the focus of protests surrounding Operation Midway Blitz. WBBM political editor Jeff Buckles reports from the western suburbs that her assessment of the conditions inside the building was blunt.
No one should be treated this
this way.
Representative Underwood says no guards and no detainees were inside during her visit, and she was told the last detainee to be held overnight was a couple of weeks ago. But after seeing the facilities, including open toilets and 3 showers, she offered this assessment of what it must have been like for people who were held there, some for days at a time.
Unsanitary, uncomfortable, loud, noisy, smelly.
She says this was the first visit to the facility by a sitting member of Congress in years and happened after months of denials and delays.
It has been unacceptable, the level of non-responsiveness.
And she says she intends to return. We're in Broadview. Jeff Buckles, News Radio 105.9, WBBM.